right, everybody. I believe we are live. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining us today over the holiday season. My name is Deborah Sampier. I am the CEO of Hawk Networks, and Hawk Networks is the company behind the Althea platform, which we'll be talking about today. We also developed and support the Gravity Bridge, which is all part of a global system of enabling new ways to fund, build, and operate telecom and utility networks. So I have with me today Justin and Devin. If you'll say hi to everyone, then we'll get started.
Hey, I'm Justin, CTO and the other co-founder of Althea.
And I'm Devin. I'm our strategy and operations at Althea.
And Devin, if you want to, and you're new to the group here, for folks that maybe don't know you, if you want to kind of share a little bit about what maybe you've done in blockchain and other ecosystems, I will say that we have been really excited to have her on board. She's helped with a lot of our granting around telecom and outreach. You know, obviously, one of the things that makes Althea what it is building with communities instead of just like building and designing for them. And Devin's been really instrumental over the last few months on that. So I don't know if you want to give a little bit of background. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so I'm originally a social worker, and I've been working in communities for the last like 10 years or so. And around 2018, I got into blockchain in a more operational capacity, so like the administrative HR stuff. And then I met Deb and just found this really incredible just connection between community organizing work that I've been doing that really interests me, and being able to work in blockchain spaces. And it just was this perfect fit. And I've been with Althea for almost a year now.
Has it been almost a year? Wow,
February, yeah.
Oh, the time has really flown. I mean, this is actually kind of a crazy kind of interview recap, because this year I felt in particular just went so quick.
Yes.
And not only that, like this is really an exciting inflection point for Althea right now, because I think, you know, what we've seen demonstrated over the last like 5 years as we've been building is, you know, we built very focused on the user itself. Like, how do we, what solutions are we, meeting? What are we building? And we built together with the community. And, we've been having, we had 85% annual growth last year, revenue growth, and, it's been strong. And so I feel like we really have come to this point of saying, look, this model works. It solves the problem. It meets the need of that, at least in the US, 1 in 4 people that don't have, adequate internet. But this is the year where we're now launching and unveiling liquid infrastructure, which is the catalyst and that inflection to scale. So we can build this, we can grow, but how do we enable globally? Like, the question is, okay, how do we move this from growth to scale to that global platform that we envision, and solving these problems on a massive scale? And it really came down to, how do we bring capital for people building? How do we match these people building these kind of networks now with the capital needed to do that? And that's really what liquid infrastructure does. So today we're going to talk a lot about, we're going to start with just a little recap of what we've been doing this year, and then kind of go into, what's a little bit about liquid infrastructure, the blockchain launch. I'm sure everybody's very curious about where that is, how they can plug in, and we'll spend some time on that. And then kind of finish in with some of the new ecosystem stuff we have coming up for y'all. But if anyone would like to have any questions along the way, just drop them in Discord or Twitter, or YouTube is great too. If you're listening there, and then we'll answer them as we go along too. So this is interactive. We're here. This is the time to AMA. But if you do miss us, or if you're watching this recorded, please do drop into our Discord channel and ask questions. We're all there and happy to provide information. So so Justin, why don't you tell us about what happened this year with the technology stack? I think there's a lot really exciting that's involved with key LTE, and that's the edge, LTE 5G core, what we've been doing there, and some of the other like technology pieces that came together this year.
Yeah, well, so I always want to start with the subtle part, because I think it's the most interesting. So, this, how should I put it? A couple of years ago, we got the billing software working, where you could have this distributed multi-hop network, pay each other for bandwidth in a decentralized way. And what was really new about this is that this is the only payment solution still. Even though we were the first one to finish, nobody else has come up with a payment solution that can handle multiple hops, that is a fully, deeply routable, scalable to the entire internet solution for bandwidth payments. And what we've proved out over the last year is a lot of taking that solution up to thousands of homes, and to the point where we can say, okay, not only does this work as a proof of concept, this works as a product that people can use, and we know how to pull in another 500 homes, and that's something that we can just do. And that in my opinion, is the biggest thing, because that's the hardest part. You build technology and people just expect it to work well and scale and all of this. They gloss over the difficulties of really scaling things up. But I am happy that we have been able to do that. And now what we've developed that's new this year is Key LTE. So Key LTE is an open source 4G and 5G core that is modified by us to run on consumer Wi-Fi routers, like the rest of our software. So you can literally run a cell tower on here. Give me a second. I got to unplug my test unit. You can run a cell tower on one of these. And that is paired with the Althea billing software to let us go further and use new technology, in this case, LTE, and the CBRS, Citizens Band. I always forget the acronym, but CBRS frequencies allow almost anyone to set up cellular equipment and have access to more broadcast power to reach more people, to help connect more people. And that dovetails and makes good use of the Althea billing protocol, which we have been stabilizing. And then, in addition to Key LTE, we have also done several of our first fiber networks, which have required more subtle tweaks to the software. And that is where we are once again working on scaling, where you could have a single head-end router with 500, 600, 700 neighbors, and have that work out software-wise. Because once again, the routing software that we are working with hasn't been asked to do this before. So we have to sit down and really make it work. It's used. Anyways, I'm not going to get on a tangent about routing protocols, even though I will the slightest provocation. So Deborah, is there anything that I've forgotten?
I want to add a little bit of context about kind of what that looks like in the real world. So, a few of the projects that we did were in urban areas. So a lot of people who've been around with Althea have known that we have been able to build networks in places that others haven't. And that means rural, right? Like in the middle of nowhere, Oregon, or, kind of out in, rural North Carolina. And I heard those stories here. But what we really did this year, bringing this to a real medium agnostic, meaning 4G, 5G, and then fiber, is that we were able then to address a lot of the needs in urban areas. So we've been building in Dallas and Atlanta together with a nonprofit who has a mandate to build to, I think, 10,000 households in Atlanta, Dallas, a few other cities. But we were able to go into these apartments where in Atlanta, I remember kind of walking to the apartments, the cable company was there, but they hadn't maintained it, right? It just wasn't worth it for their money. They weren't able to figure out how to make this work. There's birds' nests and the cable, and that the infrastructure itself was very, very poor. And this is a lot of why you get to the 18-20% in New York City that don't have access to internet. We're down in Las Cruces, that's 28% of Donana County don't have access to internet. I mean, these are quite large numbers for where we would think, hey, it's the US, these are developed cities, why is the infrastructure not good? But a lot of the reason is that they aren't able, and this is where the payment system is so critical. The system starts to break down if you're just charging everyone like a utility and you're just charging them, a certain amount per month. It's not flexible. And the really the pay as you go sort of model of Althea that allows people to pay 5, 10, whatever dollars and still have great internet really gives companies the flexibility to build in these areas. And so now there's, I don't know, roughly 800,000 people in Atlanta, and of course more coming this year in apartments that now have great fiber optic infrastructure and internet through this Althea platform. And I think, that's starting to get the notice of carriers are going, hey, look, I can use this and I can reach a larger segment of people. And so we're really opening not only the rural parts that weren't able to be built before, but also the urban areas that are struggling, as well. So I think it's pretty cool. Plus, hey, if you're a carrier, if you're trying to build in an area and you are only able to capture 75% of the market, then all of a sudden can capture 100% of the market using a better protocol, kind of just makes sense, right?
Yeah, can I butt in? And so the thing, well, once again, protocols, slightest provocation. But what the Althea routing and billing protocol provides is a carrier agnostic, medium agnostic billing and connection system to take the core of the internet, the shared cable, the ability to share connections and pull it out to the edge. So right now, if you want to talk to a server in Europe, you use one of, just a couple transatlantic cables. And imagine if every ISP had to build their own transatlantic cable. Well, it would be a terrible disaster. The cost of internet would be too high and we wouldn't be able to build the internet. But every ISP that wants to serve your house has to build their own cell tower or their own line to your house. So that means if you want 4 ISP options, that means 4 times the cost. And nobody's going to pay 4 times the cost. And then we run around asking why internet service is monopolistic and why everybody is underserved. And the answer is, why are you building 4 of them and you aren't getting the benefit of 3? It's not like you pay for one and you get the benefit of all 4. You only get the benefit of whichever one you're connected to. And with Althea, the system is fundamentally different. Different organizations can share connections, receive automatic billing for traffic that is transited to them. And instead of bringing a better connection to the front of a neighborhood and having everybody upgrade over the next 10 years, you bring a better connection to the front of a neighborhood and everybody upgrades in the next 30 seconds. And that is how you radically change the cost of connectivity to make it more accessible.
100%. And if I can take a bit of a detour as we kind of lead up into the real big topic here, which is liquid infrastructure, I think a lot of the other piece of the inflection point was the work that we've been doing on the Gravity Bridge, which allows us to bring stable coins, into the Althea infrastructure, also has led us to a point now where we can scale, we can launch the blockchain. And I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about some of the testing infrastructure, the auction module, which is pretty neat as well too, and like kind of what that lets us do. I think also on the kind of underlying technology stack.
Well, so if we want to get into the Althea L1 design, and so the reason we are doing Althea L1, and I know it seems kind of counterintuitive because everybody's talking about L2s these days, but we like to be contrarian and we like to do what, to really focus on what works for us. And there's because we have this vision of using this billing protocol to help connect the world better. And that has certain requirements. And Althea L1 is a platform that will let us have millions of homes on Althea in a stable, sustainable way that actually makes sense. And to go down the list of requirements there, you need instant finality because you are selling a real good. Bandwidth is a good. It is transmissions, it's electrons in the air, right? They are sent to the user. And once they're sent, the payment better be able to come at the same time. If you have to wait 20 minutes for your payment to be final, or it might be reverted, you're going to have a bad time. So we need instant finality. We need the ability for efficient light clients. So that is, imagine if you have 1 million routers And I'm sure everybody at this point, anybody who's interacted with DeFi or blockchains in any fashion, has had their RPC node get bogged down and stuff doesn't work correctly. And it's incredibly frustrating. But imagine if that was your home internet. That's unacceptable. That's why we need efficient, compact light clients, which the Comet BFT consensus that Althea L1 uses generates compact light clients that are easy to verify even on small consumer Wi-Fi routers, which is great because every CPU cycle we use verifying the light client is one we cannot use transmitting Netflix for you. So that is one of the more important requirements as well. And then finally, we have what we're going to talk a little bit later about in this call, which is liquid infrastructure, providing a parallel programmable environment to an efficient transaction layer, where the transaction layer fees are separate from the programmable environment fees. Because if somebody gets crazy about inscriptions or some other dumb speculative thing that they need to do right now, it cannot prevent you from paying for internet. Or once again, it will be a disaster and not a product that you can scale. So Althea 1 provides for all of these functions, and it works with Gravity Bridge. Gravity Bridge being the most decentralized bridge to and from Ethereum to the Cosmos ecosystem, probably the most decentralized bridge on the DeFi Llama bridges list, current rank number 10. So it's a really impressive design achievement from the point of view of making sure that there is no one with a lever to turn the system off, which too often happens. People get lazy in bridge design and they centralize it. And that's not tolerable, once again, for an application that we want to be bigger than us, that we want to run settlement for the internet. And that means that it can't be just one person. It can't be one company. And this is the fundamental reason why you can't just do Althea as Airbnb for internet, some sort of man-in-the-middle marketplace, because nobody would trust that sort of marketplace system. It is the transparency, the open verifiability, the open settlement of blockchain that makes this peer-to-peer payment, peer-to-peer routing possible. Otherwise, you have, like the internet works right now, peering agreements that take 6 months to a year to negotiate, then another year to install, and then everybody wonders why better internet hasn't arrived to them yet.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, I think what we've also noticed over the years, and I think, you know, Devin can speak to this a little bit more, is that, you know, one of the cool things about what we've done with Althea is we've decoupled the, you know, infrastructure and the payment system for the infrastructure itself from the service layer. And that really allows for different kinds of entities that are more suited, you know, to come in and be part of the service and the planning. And there's a lot to that, right? And somebody needs to answer the phone at 3 a.m. You know, there still needs to be these kinds of things that, you know, that happen in order to build infrastructure and maintain infrastructure. But, you know, the lift to invest in, you know, infrastructure or to crowdfund or however you want to do that can be decoupled and funded separately, which is really a good lead into what we're, you know, looking at with the liquid infrastructure, which I'm going to share my screen here and give you all kind of a big reveal, right? First scene here are kind of mock-up of what liquid infrastructure looks like. And maybe Justin, you can kind of narrate what we're doing here technically behind the scenes while I pull this up. And we also have some pretty exciting news in that our private beta for liquid infrastructure is going live here this year. So within the next week or so, which, you know, you hear to hear first. So pretty exciting. Let's see if I can share my.
Yeah, so liquid infrastructure is really a form of account abstraction, meaning that it allows people to, it allows users to book revenue on chain and have it interact with the programmable environment in Althea L1. So let's see. What's a good example there? So here we have we have an apartment building in Atlanta, and the owner of the apartment building has so I'll put it this way. The owner of the network can be different than the immediate operator, but it also allows owner operators, to buy and sell networks efficiently. So right now, if you own an ISP and you want to try and sell it, let's say you built a small network, just like one apartment building, one town, or whatever, you can't sell it for very much money because very few people can buy it. And that lack of ability, that lack of liquidity is a real killer to internet construction investment. Because why would you build this ISP that you can maybe sell for, let's say, 2 years worth of revenue? So the price of the network is the amount of money it makes in 2 years. When you could build a McDonald's or some sort of franchise business that is easier to operate, and that can sell for a significantly higher multiple, maybe 5, maybe 10, for a particularly good location. So it doesn't make as much sense. Obviously, it's not a good allocation of funds, and that's part of why internet service is hard to, networks are hard to build. So the feature that Liquid Infrastructure provides is that it allows the routers, which are making payments on chain, to represent themselves with an NFT. So they can represent their revenue as an NFT that can then be sold or easily transferred. And this makes it easy for you, the builder or the operator of a network, to sell it to somebody else. And they can take ownership of the network. They take ownership of the wallet by taking ownership of the NFT, and they get the revenue from the devices. And this makes infrastructure more liquid. And our beta liquid infrastructure market is about helping network operators constructing and operating networks to find buyers for what they are working on. And this will help accelerate the construction of networks.
100%. And, there's such a big opportunity in this space too. We see existing kind of telco providers and another reason why it is so heavily monopolized is it's very heavily capital intensive. It's sort of siloed. The people that can invest in telecom or invest in this kind of capital have been pretty restricted, as Justin was mentioning. But like there's 2.5 trillion sort of locked into the booked assets of the top 30, telecom companies in the world. But on the same token, they're also equally they usually hold quite a bit of debt as they try to get debt financing in to build networks, and it can really sort of kill or stymie kind of most telecom or even municipalities or anyone sort of looking to build infrastructure. Other than those that can absorb, quite a bit of debt. That's why you kind of see where things like more and more monopolize out. So this democratizes access to funding networks, and you pair that with Althea's very flexible billing structure and ability to build a core with your router in your home. You really start to see how we have disaggregated and made things into like Lego blocks that anyone can build. And that's really the part of the huge revolution that this kind of standard and protocol brings about. So it's pretty exciting stuff. We'll be launching and iterating on this process, and kind of starting with our existing work on Gnosis, and then migrating to some of our work on the layer 1, of course, integrating those as well. But yeah, so this is pretty exciting, and I think is really what brings us to this scaling inflection point. So it doesn't look like. Do we have any questions, Devin?
We don't have any questions, but it might be just a good time to pause. I mean, we just revealed our liquid infrastructure. So yeah, if anyone has any questions about this or anything else that's been shared, just drop them in the comments, and I'll get them to Deb and Justin.
Yeah, there's some also good articles if you're looking to kind of like dive a little bit more into that. We've been posting on our Medium, which you can find kind of linked in from the website as well, on kind of our thoughts around this. Also thoughts around like the open source cores and how how we are building protocols in general. I think you can get a little bit more insight into that. And in our roadmap, and of course, reach out to us if you're interested, or if you have a project that that needs funded and built, and this sounds like this might be a good fit for. There really isn't any limitation of size either, right? So you can have some projects as small as maybe 25,000 or up to a few million. There's no this disaggregation really allows for kind of anyone to look at how do you build infrastructure. And then can partner with, any number of companies, of course, doing service as part of it, or what we call network operators, or the Hawk networks also can help guide people through that process too. And the website for that for Hawk Networks company is hawknetworks.net. I'll drop that in the comments here too. So if you're looking to build a project and you need to know where to get started, we have a good team, including Devin, that can help you figure things out. Put that in there. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about liquid infrastructure and the new abilities that brings. This is really the catalyst to how we scale the protocol, how we scale ability to grow the networks, and of course globally as well. So that's kind of go ahead.
Oh, no, go on.
I was just going to say kind of a good segue into, that's a good, so Cosmos Guy in the comments says, he's like, RWA on-chain plus liquid infrastructure is the future, right? So maybe, Justin, you can expand, and I think this is a really important point. So people are doing this thing called RWA, or real world assets for non-blockchain people. And this is really just sort of tokenizing a physical asset, putting it on chain for lending, borrowing, buying, selling. So I think there's kind of the thought to say, okay, well, this is just a physical asset that we're putting on chain. But Althea is very uniquely marrying up the, on-chain revenue. Everything is happening transparently on chain. I don't know, Justin, if you want to expand a little bit on this, but I think this is a really important point.
Yeah, so because the Althea routers are transacting on chain, so all the revenue is collected on chain. So it's not like, for example, you have a tokenized stock or something where somebody has hold the stock and then they minted a token. They're like, this definitely represents the stock. Please trust me. That is not how liquid infrastructure works. The revenue that comes in to the revenue that all the routers that are paying on chain run revenue through the MicroTX module. And the MicroTX module says, okay, this network is liquefied. So the revenue goes to the NFT over here. And while this doesn't prevent, obviously there's still real physical stuff happening. If somebody goes and cuts power to the apartment building, your network isn't going to keep generating revenue. That's not really possible. But it is much more transparent than an RWA that is being held by a third party because it is chain native and because all of the revenue is being booked on chain. So you can look at a network and you can see what's happening. And this helps to provide a higher level of trust and a higher level of transparency, which are two of the really big things that make blockchain interesting as a platform, is that extra level of assurance and transparency allows you to do things that otherwise wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, 100%. And I see that Cosmos Guy also talking about his question is, any thoughts on mobile plans? I see things like Helium tapping into that as evolving from their IoT stuff. So yeah, a little bit of context on kind of how mobile plans work, right? So you have a SIM card, and the SIM card has roaming onto different, onto different networks and cores, and it's authenticated in the kind of core level, kind of what we were talking about earlier with key LTE, that that has a kind of couple of different components. One is where you authenticate onto the network, and the other is where you like move traffic around. So there's kind of those two basic components of a core. So with kind of what we're seeing in Helium is that they have an MVNO agreement, which means they have an agreement to resell like T-Mobile internet. So you do see some other kind of people tapping into that, but where the vision is not only roaming and utilizing someone else's network, but really having traffic authenticate from other people, from other public networks into the private one. That's what they call kind of bilateral roaming. So with Althea, what we're working on the private LTE 5G infrastructure is creating the SIM profiles so that people that are utilizing the Althea cores and the SIMs can create infrastructure and also roam between that and a public network, T-Mobile, Dish, Verizon, whatever, but also go the other way. So when a T-Mobile, Dish, Verizon, whatever roams into our network, then there's a compensation using the payment protocol that we're using. So it's an evolving process, but we should see some material progress on that kind of Q1 2024, maybe into Q2. But really where we want to also use this is for enterprise. So we've had a lot of companies kind of come to us and say, we've got a lot of different locations. Maybe it's EV chargers, maybe it's, warehouses, whatever else, right? We have a lot of these areas throughout the US. We're spending a material amount of money on a public network. We'd like to build a private network using the Althea protocol and then allow our network devices to offset their costs and then earn money when people from a public network are nearby. So that's really, I think the vision that we're moving toward, and moving toward materially too, and of course on a global platform as well. As I've been doing some work, kind of working with some of the carriers on a global scale to see if this also kind of fits into their model. So I think there's, yes. So the answer is yes. I think that we're here to build and remake protocols in ways that really solve for people. We're not here to just resell someone else's public internet. So that's kind of the fundamental difference.
Yeah, so the very, very TLDR version is that Helium is reselling T-Mobile right now, and you as a community member can't participate and run your own tower and have Helium MVNO users migrate to your tower. We're not going to release anything until we can do that. They have already released something while they're developing that. Done. And there's a lot better design and all of that under the hood, and more freedom and long-term plans. But that's the small version.
Yeah, and the global vision is like this big puzzle, right? And we at Althea see the vision of this kind of global standards and payment protocol that empowers this kind of new ways of funding, building, operating networks on a platform level. So the way that we think about TCP/IP, the way we think about Google, is the way that we will think about Althea in the future. And all these components, whether it's Gravity Bridge or the private network or liquid infrastructure, all parts of what creates this puzzle piece, and where we've been on this journey. And for those of us that have been around for a while, been on this journey since 2018, and are moving forward with that. But big revolutionary changes like this evolve and take time. And like I said, I think where we are at today is at a really exciting inflection point to the next stage of development, which is scale, and pretty exciting stuff. So speaking of scale, let's talk about the L1, which is really another part of big catalyst of scaling. I know, Justin, you talked a little bit about why. Can we share a little bit about how folks might get started? We have a test net right now for people that want to validate and how they can jump in. Discord, of course, is the place to go. But yeah, maybe a little bit more about that. I think there'll probably be some updates enabling liquid infrastructure soon too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, so liquid infrastructure already works on the testnet if you care to play around with it. And if you go to the Althea GitHub and search for Althea L1 docs, you'll find all the documentation you need to get started and validate on the testnet. Say hi to us in the Discord and we'll shoot you some testnet tokens. Or perhaps another community member will. So that, yeah, at that point, you can play around with all of this functionality up to and including you can get an Althea router and hook it up to the testnet and start sending transactions with a small group if you want to. If you want to set up a small network there, it works.
Not only that, but we just did a really cool hackathon, people using the EVM in really exciting ways. I was really inspired by what the Electra team did. There's another YouTube video for those that might want to check it out. The Electra team made a machine-to-machine payments for EV chargers so that everyone could have an EV charger at their home or business and then earn money programmatically using the Althea platform by sort of participating in that. Obviously, it's just a hackathon, so it's not fully fleshed out. But these are the kinds of things that can be built and integrated into the existing Althea platform. If you want to kind of talk a little bit more about what that looks like, Justin, or how people could maybe think about using it in that way.
Using the liquid infrastructure, I'm sorry, could you?
Sorry. I've moved on to talking about the blockchain and the, we didn't really talk much about the EVM, right? How people
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Electra. I see. That's what you're getting on. So what Althea makes for, so the applications we keep building for real world infrastructure, and for the Althea routers and generally all the stuff we're doing, we always end up in a position of where like, man, we need this widget nobody else built. Then we build it, and then we figure out that there are about 50 other ways to use it, which are very useful in and of themselves. And this is also true with liquid infrastructure. And really, you can use this liquid infrastructure abstraction not just for bandwidth, but let's say you wanted to run a bunch of on-chain vending machines. Works great for that too. Same thing with the Electra project, which is electric car charging, where people would stream payments for electricity in the same way Althea streams payments for bandwidth. And in that way, Althea L1 and liquid infrastructure is really a generalized platform for on-chain for RWAs that book their revenue on-chain. And the number of possibilities there is huge.
Oh, yeah, sorry for just the pause there. I was just grabbing for everyone here at the end of year hackathon YouTube. If you want to take a look there were several different projects. Oh, the other one that was kind of interesting was the on-chain registry. Yeah, Justin, you want to talk about that while I drop this in here real quick?
Yeah, so I don't think you can put links in the chat. Unfortunately, they get censored. So go to the YouTube channel and go to our YouTube channel and look for the hackathon closing ceremony video. Now so the PLMN registry, that's an interesting concept because it's part of what we're doing with LTE and sort of why, it looks like you can link to YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm.
That works. Anyways, so this is why what we're doing with LTE and cellular networks is a little bit different because it's very decentralization and open source first. And one of the things that you'll find kind of astonishing is that there's no official list of whose SIM card has what identifier. And there is no way to get on any official list because the official list does not exist.
Well, it kind of does with GSMA, but it's so small as to not really be a list necessarily. So like the way things are done is this is really, there's so much in telecom that is extremely kind of old school, very manual, very human trust networks you have to be sort of part of GSMA. There's companies that coordinate SIM roaming, and you have to be part of that and pay the money. And but yes, there's no sort of permissionless way or a form that you fill out, right? To be kind of part of this is very much an industry kind of standards kind of thing, and it takes a little while. And this is where like we're starting to chip away at democratizing this, and Justin kind of take it away. So there is sort of a list, but it's not like one that you can get on necessarily.
Yeah, it's not one with an official process to be added to, or any sort of governing body, or any sort of or even a way to view it necessarily easily. And view the people who do have whatever connections it takes to get onto the list. So this is obviously a big barrier to people making their own SIM cards, running their own LTE networks, and building any sort of decentralized wireless system using that technology. So one of the interesting applications for Althea L1 is to host these sorts of databases and be like, hey, here is a system with governance that registers and manages these identifiers for SIM cards. And this seems really simple. This seems like, oh man, there has to be somebody doing that already. But that's kind of the story of Althea, is the longer we go, the more we're like, oh, yeah, there's kind of nobody really doing that in a way that is open and available and meets our needs. So we keep on making new stuff. And fortunately, we keep on finding excellent excellent partners and other users who come along and they say, well, I needed this too. And that's really the advantage and the fun thing about open source.
Yeah, 100%. And and really the ecosystem partners that have come along the way to build together with us on this future, I've just take a minute to thank them. And I think really it's been so exciting to see people that do really just, do get it, and do get it within the telecom industry, see these needs. And then also we have especially me, I do have the benefit of seeing how this changes people's lives in real time, right? So really, I was in Atlanta, I saw the bird's nest, I met the people. One of the apartments that we were at, the apartment manager was in tears because the kids would try to do school, and they wouldn't have access to computers or internet. They'd come to the apartments had like a couple of computers that didn't work with internet. They didn't have internet at home. These were kids that were trying, right? They were literally making an effort, but because of that lack of access to internet, and because the Comcast and things of the world that were trying to make it work obviously couldn't make it financially work. They have shareholders to do. So being able to align provider and user and to build these things and to see them make a real impact has been just really, really, really quite tremendous. So really looking forward to now taking this at scale to, change more lives and to change the way that we access utilities. I think is really, really quite a privilege. So that does lead me to how do you get involved, right? It's an amazing journey. Come along with us. How do you get involved? Devin, can you share a little bit kind of about what our thoughts are around the chapters that we'll be putting together in the first part of the year? I think we've recognized the need for people to find ways to come together, to work together, to start these off, even if they can't, maybe you're not going to be a network operator. Maybe you're not going to run your own utility. Maybe you're not going to fund your own utility, but you still want to support this. You want to see this revolution come about. And so we've been really putting together this kind of a chapters program, and Devin can share a little bit more about what that's going to look like here in the future.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, or even I guess a little in 2022, we were working on boot camps. And we had this idea of like, if you want to start a network, let's get these boot camps together. And then anyone, who's ready to be a network operator can come and we'll teach you. And then we realized there's so many more people interested in this than just network operators. It's people who have a need and they want to get involved. And we really wanted to find a place how no matter kind of your technical skill or your understanding of blockchain or wherever you are, we wanted to make sure that you had a place. So now we want to start these chapters, and there'll be like city specific chapters. So kind of like, Althea, and then we'll have Althea, New Mexico chapter or state city. But it's just going to be these community oriented places where we can all get involved. There'll be conversations. We'll be kind of leading the conversations. We will have resources available. We will come out. We'll host meetings, and it's just this way to bring everyone together, specifically to just connect like to really help us with our mission and vision. So yes, there was a question here. This stuff is so technical because we're talking about infrastructure. What resources are for the average person? This is where we're at, right? That's kind of our goal with these chapters.
Yeah, and if we'll have these available on our shop.althea.net very soon. But if you have not seen yet, we have our very first edition of a Choose Your Own Adventure zine, where you can written by our own Devin here, that allows you to bring internet and EV chargers to your rural Midwestern American town, or to go corporate. And it's your decision. So we'll obviously, these will be evolving, and these are kind of part of what the chapter does, is right to explain what we're doing. Like I think, Daniel, you're so right. A lot of it's very technical, so we all can get behind this revolution and mission, and but how can we bring this so everyone can understand what it is we're building? And so we'd love to have you as part of that, and please do reach out if you are interested in starting a chapter. You want to get involved in some way, we'd love to hear from you. You can fill out the form at hawknetworks.net. You can go I think there's one on althea.net as well. Find us in Discord, find us on Twitter, find me. We'll get you to the right folks. But we are so excited to build this together with you. And then, Justin, how about getting involved technically? Do you want to kind of wrap through where they might join the validator? How do they find out about all that stuff? How do they plug in from a kind of technical?
Well, so for both, for Gravity Bridge, you go to GitHub Gravity-Bridge, and there is a documentation repo that will tell you exactly how to do all of those things. And then if you go to GitHub Althea-Net, you'll find, guess what? A documentation repo that tells you how to do all of those things. So look for Althea L1 docs, Gravity docs, and also hop into the Discords for both of them. And we'll be happy to direct you to, specific pieces of advice or anything that you need to help get started. There are great communities in both of those places, and they're very helpful. And I've been told that running a Gravity Bridge validator is fairly straightforward compared to all the others, and the same thing with an Althea validator. So the technical barrier should not be very high. And
permissionless, of course, to join the validator set of both Gravity Bridge and the testnet of Althea. Everyone is welcome to join and be a part, and we welcome you there. Same with building, or if you're interested in building a token on, or building a project on top of the Althea blockchain, we'd be happy to help you with that. Hearing a lot of people look at how do they integrate like a reward token. I thought this was kind of an interesting evolution, is that a few of the carriers that are running a telco or an ISP, they want to build in a points or reward system, kind of like airline miles, right? But being able to have it on the blockchain, and specifically the Althea blockchain, in a way that it can interact with stable coins, allows people to abstract away the exchange part of it, right? You don't want to, okay, I've got these blockchain tokens, and then I got to go to a centralized exchange and change them out. Nothing in the Althea system is requiring of the user to have an educational lift on blockchain. You can just simply add money, withdraw money. It's all sort of bridged around it and extracted away in the blockchain. And that's a key, I think, component to the way that, we also sort of envision the role of Gravity Bridge and the Althea blockchain, is that we can have that level of interoperability. We can have all of the mechanics of stuff that makes all this really neat stuff work, but on the user experience, that can all be abstracted away as just to simply do what you want to do with your money. So, you know, and then again, this is really because we built together with people, with real people and real communities needing real things, instead of sort of building the blockchain technology in and of itself. And there's so much of that design and user first approach that's built into everything that we do. I say it often, but you know, Frank Lloyd Wright once said that, you know, something to the effect that, you know, when you he's a famous architect, when you architect a building, it in fact changes you, like it architects you and how you approach and how you live in that home. And that's very much the way I think about Althea, that by building these systems and designing these systems, they in fact actually change, you know, how we approach utilities and infrastructure and communities. And there's something really, really powerful in that. So the design has to be sort of integrated with the user. But all right, that's my my kind of point to leave you out with today. Is there any other questions or anything before we wrap up, or any last thoughts that you have, Justin or Devin?
I think that the philosophy of, you know, Althea routers and the entire design, and the sort of applications that really make sense on Althea L1, the best way to describe the goal is to lower the barrier to entry for having a machine that makes you money. You know, right now you have to have, you know, your home router being able to route being able to route data to help participate in your nearby internet network and make a fair share of the bandwidth that it forwards, and do this automatically lets you use your property to make money on a small scale. And these other applications like smart car chargers, or even I was talking about vending machines, these are ways for regular people to have access to automation. Because if we want automation to help everybody, it has to be accessible to everybody. And this goes also with the philosophy of having internet accessible to everybody. People cannot take advantage of all of this unless they also have connectivity. So I think that is really the philosophy across the board.
100%. We do have one last question, it looks like, from Nick. I've lost track of Althea Chain Explorer. Do we have a link? I wonder, do we have a Chain Explorer for the testnet?
Yes, there are a couple, and the links are in the documentation repo.
Whoa.
I keep everything there. And if you find something is not there, you can open a pull request and I will merge it to add it there.
Well, there we go. You heard it here first. Well, hey, it was really great, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the big, you know, reveal of liquid infrastructure, and I was just so excited. Please stick with us here over the, you know, and stay in touch over the next couple of months as we roll that out, and of course also the blockchain launch itself. So now is a really great time to plug in and be involved. And you know, keep in touch and let us know how we can help you be part of the Althea journey with us. All right, everyone.
Thanks
you. Bye.
Bye.